Welcome to Young and Adventist.
Welcome to Young and Adventist.
Welcome to Young and Adventist.
Hello guys, welcome back to the second episode. So the previous episode we talked about different questions and the comments that you had, and now I know the last episode was I wouldn't say controversial, but we were aligning on some things, other things we weren't aligning. So this is an episode for clarity and follow-up questions that we had for Misati and the rest of the panel. Do I need to introduce the panel really? But okay, for courtesy purposes. Hi, my name is Peter Mogoba.
Bichanga Jefferson.
Misati Nyambane. Bobby Thambu.
But I don't think we need to do this every time. But anyways, so we're talking about beliefs and what we believe in as Christians, and so what your identity is.
African spiritualist. I feel that would be the simplest label.
Okay, yeah, African spiritualist. So you said your beliefs are defined by ancestors.
No, they are a chain. No, they are a link in the chain.
Yeah.
So the belief goes back to the origin point, the mystery from which we originated. That's the thing.
So the origin is a mystery in itself.
Yeah. So it's a divine mystery.
Okay.
Yeah.
And perhaps just to bring us up to speed, because I know some of the episodes you had controversial views on Ellen White and some of the views you believed in the Bible, and now there's a whole shift. There's a whole shift of you believing in the Bible and not believing in the Bible, finding the Bible as a myth. Like, how did that come about?
So I think coming down to belief in the Bible.
Yeah.
So the first premise is the Bible is lauded as descending from a divine origin. So that's the main claim that is given. So to understand the claim, I decided, let me explore Christian theology. Theology is broad, so let's say Christian theology, and let me counter-reference it, or let me check. If this can be a historical document, then it must align with external third-party non-Judahite sources. If I say I can fly, if I write down I can fly, that doesn't mean I can fly. That's not enough evidence. It has to be corroborated by another party that is neutral. That's how evidence works. So it cannot be, so of course the Bible is of a Judahite source, meaning an Israelite source. So we cannot bring a source from the same region, especially on something that is so pertinent. It has to be neutral, it has to be corroborated, or else it's open to bias. Of course, bias is introduced. So now based on that, and based on an examination of the text with historical markers, the scholarly agreement, among Bible scholars who take the historical critical view of the Bible and do textual critical analysis, they came to the conclusion is that the Bible is like any literature of its time. Okay. It's a literature of the Israelites who are Canaanites, and thus they share the story and the thread. So that thread is similar to their cousins and their brothers and their sisters. That's the historical agreement on that.
Misati and Bobby, do you think the Bible is a myth? What's your understanding of what the Bible is?
No, the Bible is as true as can be for me, because what you've mentioned, apart from it being, of course, the most important thing for me as a Christian is the Word of God. But the Bible is also a historical text.
Yeah. And
Misati has mentioned about corroboration, and that is true. When you look throughout history, there have always been texts from other sources and other people outside the Israelite nation who talk about the things that happened also during their time. Now, let's add in archaeology. In the past 200 years, there have been interesting discoveries in archaeology from the 1890s through even to the early 2000s.
Yeah.
There have been people coming up, and for a long time, people believed that Nineveh was not a real city. But now we know that the city of Nineveh existed because because where's Babylon now? In Iraq, Iraq or Iran. But I advise our viewers to look that up. There have been many advancements in terms of archaeology. When you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, when you look at the Moabite stone, when you look at King Cyrus's cylinder, all these are archaeological findings that actually contribute towards us understanding the Bible as a historical narrative also.
Yeah.
Now, for a long time also, people like King David, who are they seemed like mythical, almost like the legend of King Arthur and his nobles. But now we know for sure that these people existed. Christ, for example, you can debate. We can always debate whether Christ was divine, Christ was God, and all that. But you can't debate that there was a man who existed during this time, was very influential and all that. So to me, the Bible, first of all, is the word of God.
Yeah.
It is a holy book. It is a historical narrative. It is a prophetic book. And I can speak on and on about it. It's the book that has stood the test of time for ages and ages. It's the greatest book that has ever been written.
Yeah. Bobby, what do you think?
I think I just want to echo what
Yeah.
but I think the Bible is God's inspired word. I think it's God who inspired his words through people, and it's also a historical record that is full of truth. That's what I believe in. And like even when you read the book of Matthew, there's this time in chapter 1, there's this guy who went and he was given a Bible in prison, and he started reading, because he wanted to know more about the Bible. And he came to the genealogy of Christ, and he was like, he didn't know, it was just name after name after name. And for him, he was like, it didn't make sense to him, But then when I said, even before for a time, I tried reading the genealogy, it wasn't making sense, because these are just names of people. But then once I read like the Old Testament, I realized like, wait a minute, these are actually kings of the Old Testament. It's giving a historical account of what happened even in many, many years ago, like up to 2,000 years ago when Abraham was there. Like the lineage can be traced from Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah, and Perez, and so many other people. And the thing that I find really fascinating is that God doesn't sometimes whitewash some of the things that are in his book to make it appear like very something good for people to consume. Like if bad things happen, bad things happen. Like when you read the story of Judah, he was in the lineage of Christ. Christ is the lion of the tribe of Judah. But you see, Judah he slept with his daughter-in-law, thinking that, Tamar was a prostitute. But then God, he would have been like, hey, let me whitewash this story to make it appear that maybe this lineage was clean. But then we know what David did, and the Bible even says that he slept with Uriah's wife. We know about what Solomon did. We know about what Manasseh did. Like the sins of these people are recorded. So if it was up to me, I would have chosen to be born in a clean family. If I was going to choose where I was going to be born, I would kind of like whitewash my story to suit a narrative, But then the Bible is very real. It's very human, and I don't think the Bible is. It just says things as plainly as they are. If David was a man after God's own heart and he still sinned, it will write it down. If Solomon was like the wisest person on earth, he sinned. So I believe that if God wanted a pure book, he would have just written it down. But the fact that all the good things, but it's very unique in the sense that it is very real and we can actually relate to it. Yes, I believe even for that reason, it's an honest book.
From my viewpoint. Right, so the thing is, foundationally, well, each of us, we are looking at this through a different lens. So you look at it through the lens of divine inspiration. I look at it through the lens of human creation. Now, every single evidence that will be brought here you will say that it, based on your lens, you'll say this boosts the divine narrative. I'll say this boosts the human narrative. That is, so every single evidence that can be brought up, so every evidence you brought up, to me, that is evidence of human creation. That's the thing. So you mentioned something about the good, the bad, and the ugly. The Bible isn't special in that. There are many books that detail the debauchery of people, not special in that regard. So then it comes down to, what else did you mention? You mentioned something of... Right. So, so the thing is now the thing is, in myth, they don't exactly whitewash. It's a story that's meant to be told. Okay, here's the thing. So myth is often, it's not entirely fictitious. We make things up. No, we will take figures and to them we will accrete supernatural or stories around them. So the thing is, the Tell Dan Steely and the Scroll of Manepta. So let me deal with the first one. The Scroll of Manepta was detailing the pharaohs. So it was detailing the way there was this Egyptian pharaoh in about 1290 something who he overthrew Canaan, and he says the land of Canaan has been overthrown and the people of Israel have been laid waste. So Canaan denoting a land, Israel denoting a people, showing that the Israelites had, to a degree, differentiated themselves against the Canaanites. So based on that scroll, the Exodus is an invention, because the Exodus is pinned to around that time. So historians are like, there was no Exodus, there is no archaeological evidence for the Exodus, therefore there was no Exodus. Now, the Tell Dan Steely has the very first person in the Bible to whom there is a, like, first hand.
I think there is archaeological evidence for the Exodus.
None that has been peer reviewed, none that is agreed to unanimously among scholars. And the thing is, I'll say,
they have to unanimously agree?
Or they have to, it doesn't have to be a unanimous agreement, but it has to be that we have evidence, and so there has to be evidence that proves that there were millions of people in the desert for 40 years.
But
so
there were slaves in Egypt who moved from Egypt. It's historical.
They're the Hyksos. Okay. There's that Hyksos story, okay, but it doesn't. So it looks similar, but it is not. It is not. And so coming back to the Tell Dan Steely. So the Tell Dan Steely narrates the first person to whom we have a direct first-hand account is King Omri. That's the thing. So King Omri is mentioned, but nothing about what he did was mentioned. Then we have the reference to the house of David. So we know that there was an entity called the house of David, but that doesn't mean that there was a person called David.
Okay, Tell Dan still, the Tell Dan still 9th century supports there was a house of David, no?
Yeah, it supports there was a house of David, but it does not say there was a David. That's the thing. So this is entirely separate. So what happens here is the way myth works is we will take a historical figure or a historical archetype, and around that figure we will accrete different things. I'd say the most pertinent or the most recent example of such an accretion would be the accretion to Jesus. So there was the itinerant apocalyptic Jewish preacher by the name Jesus, who was killed by the Romans. That's all history has to say. So history declares that. Now, to this figure, we have accreted the Gospels. So that's pretty much it. So the thing is, myth isn't that we make from nothing. I think even Spider-Man, for example. So Spider-Man, to some degree, can be called a myth. There is the Daily Bugle and there is New York. But just because the Daily Bugle and New York exist doesn't mean Spider-Man exists. Just because someone references a place that exists, someone references people that we can say exist, doesn't mean that the person who is said to exist exists and existed to do those things. They are accretions. That's pretty much, that's the critical logic. So we can say such a person existed, but do we have multiple sources that say they did what they did? Okay. That's where that logic of mythology is in the academic scholarship.
That's interesting, because I know the Portians Pilate inscriptions talks about the existence of Jesus and how Christ was tried. He was tried for being a righteous person. And so, talking about righteousness, I want to see what believing in the Bible does or doesn't do for you, right? Like, I give an example. The Bible dictates my morality as a Christian, right? And for you, you believe in the ancestral African theology. Is it African theology or African
I'd say spirituality.
African spirituality?
Yeah.
Does it dictate your morality?
So,
So, like when you read the Bible,
Mhm.
does the Bible set you apart or like drive you further from having a good moral standard?
Right. So particularly the rise to the moral, the Bible is a very do this, do that kind of work.
Before we continue,
yes.
Maybe you could speak on to that. Like the Bible says, do this, do that. What is the benefit of the Bible speaking on to that? Yeah. No, not right now. Sorry. So I just want to think about it.
So now that's a characteristic of Abrahamic religions. So they are very, I'd say, rules based. So there are different structures. I'd say different broad structures of the way religions are structured. So there are nature religions, into which falls Native American spirituality, African spirituality, to some degree Hinduism, and some, like I said, nature religions. Then there are Abrahamic religions. I think those are the two broad based. I'm sure there are others. Now, so Abrahamic religions are more of do this, do that. Morality must be dictated by people who claim to have access to the divine.
Yeah,
I'll say that. So they claim. So an example would be Hammurabi. So Hammurabi created a third of everything he said is I am this, I am the messenger of the Most High. It is I who knows, and it is you who must follow. And so I see the same pattern. I see the same pattern of people who claim to be able to speak to the divine, but you cannot prove that you spoke to the divine. It is not a objectively verifiable fact. If someone says that they had a dream, they had a vision, etc., scientifically that could be a hallucination. So therefore, there's no objective way to prove, and that comes to belief. It comes to an individual's personal belief in that. Right. Then we come to nature religions. So nature religions, the premise is because the divine is within you, the divine does not need to dictate. The divine does not care for these physical matters. The divine is spirit. And in the spirit, there is neither right nor wrong, there just is. So how does morality evolve? Morality is situationally emergent. Now, what do I mean by that?
Yeah.
What I mean is killing is wrong, but killing someone who's trying to rape your daughter is right. That's the thing. So that's how morality is situationally emergent. Having kids is a good thing. Having kids and bringing them into poverty is a very bad thing. That's the thing. So now we do not need to dictate, do this, do that, because as we all have the divine, when we are in touch with the divine is able to inform us on what is right and what is wrong. So morality comes from within.
You know how that statement is very subjective, because as a lawmaker mentality, if you kill someone, there is no objective way of looking at it. Or if someone does a strict liability offense, which, how can I explain this? Like murder is very objective, right?
Yeah.
If I kill right now, if I kill him right now, I'll be arrested for that, and I'll be tried for that for life, right? No, I won't kill him.
Yeah.
So the law won't look at why did I kill someone.
I think it does to some degree.
Like when I kill someone, there's manslaughter and murder.
Yeah, that's
right.
The thing. So you can prove that
But
it's the
the
lesser
thing is,
evil.
both murder is a life sentence, manslaughter is 20 years or how many years? I can't remember.
I'd say it's
Sorry, I don't do criminal, guys. This is why I'm struggling with this. But why I'm saying that is, if you kill someone, you'll be arrested for it, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll be put in prison for it.
Yeah.
So, yes, in as much as morality is a bit subjective, some offenses are objective. What do I mean by that? Is when it comes to belief, we tend to do more research of what is right and what is wrong, what we should believe in, why we shouldn't believe in something. Like for me, Christianity guides me in a good way to live with God and to live with society. as we were talking about the 10 Commandments, there is the whole aspect of living right with God and living right with my fellow men, right? And you can argue, I don't have to be guided by something to live right with men, right? I can be guided by the tradition, I can be guided by this, but you can see how flawed these things are, right? For example, if you give that example in the past where someone, you give an example of killing someone because of raping your daughter, like you can see how the tradition is flawed. But I'd say affirmatively today, I have never seen Christ being flawed in his instructions. Right? His instructions were straight to the point. Like if he tells you how to love, let's talk about murder. He tells you if you hate your brother, that's like committing murder, right? If I look at a woman lustfully, that's like committing adultery. So Christ it's not about do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that. It's having that continuous relationship with God, and it helps you grow spiritually in a certain way. Again, people might argue that there's no heaven, like after we die, we go back. We can have all those differences. And you said something about believing, like you need proof to believe in something. And Christ said, what did Christ tell Thomas? Blessed is he that
Who believes without sin?
who believes without seeing. So there's that whole element of faith. But anyways, that's another story. Before Bobby, Bichama had to say something and then come back to you, okay?
Sure. And so you wanted, I'll come in and talk about to just rebut what he mentioned about the Bible telling you do this and do that.
Yeah.
But again, we can look at the Bible, we can interrogate the Bible inside it and outside it. So what I mean is when you're looking about the veracity of the Bible, and if we're interrogating whether it's a true text, first of all, we can, and we've already done that to some extent, look at the Bible outside the Bible. So we are looking at...
Look at the Bible outside the Bible.
Yeah,
What is that?
so looking at the Bible outside the Bible means you're comparing, are there other texts which are in corroboration, what he mentioned with the Bible? And I've already mentioned something about archaeology. And so when you're looking at the Bible outside the Bible, we don't have time to discuss all those, but we will do that later. For example, just one example is the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were discovered by a shepherd boy in the late 19th century. And the scientists are in agreement that these scrolls that the Bible as we know it has been in existence for more than 2,000 years. Like these texts date to more than 2,000 years ago. And of course, we know 2,000 years ago, that is when our Lord Jesus Christ walked this earth. So number one, there is that issue, the case of preservation. I think the only Bible, the only book which is not in the Dead Sea Scrolls is there's only one book, which is not either Esther or some parts of Isaiah, but almost all these texts were found in the Dead Sea Scrolls as separate pieces or separate materials. So that is looking at the Bible outside the Bible. And when we look at the Bible inside it, like we should with all other religions, then we find that this book was written for a period of over 5,000 years. Is it 5,000?
6,000.
Because you have
1,500.
1,500. Yeah.
No, not 1,500. Like from Moses' time to the time of Paul, that is
Around 2,000.
Yes.
4,000.
Yeah.
Around 4,000. Yeah.
But anyway, one thing we can agree on is thousands of years. So this Bible,
15.
No.
you can't agree on that. Okay, but we can just say what I believe in.
Yeah. So I think
That from the time of Moses, maybe someone can just look it up. But from the time of Moses to the time of Paul, these were thousands of years. Now, you can debate on the time, but we can all agree that all these writers never met with each other. Yeah, the Bible was written by over 40 authors. These 40 authors never met with each other, but what they spoke about doesn't conflict in any way. And in the areas where they conflict, they seem to conflict. They seem to conflict because there's a misunderstanding. So when we look at the texts, when you look at the so when you look at the texts objectively, we can see that they are coherent. Now let me talk about the areas where they seem to conflict. And even in those areas where they seem to conflict, we can make an argument for or against them. But the general consensus is that this word is in agreement in and of itself. Yeah. So that is interrogating the Bible inside the Bible. And then look at the transformative. One of the greatest, you can argue about beliefs, but you can never argue about a life, a life that is lived. And one of the greatest powers that the Bible has exemplified is its transformative power, that it can change a man from being one thing to something else. And of course, many other things can do that. Many other texts can do that. And so it's something worth thinking about. Now, when you see a person dying for their faith, this is one thing that led to the growth of the church in the early church. Christ died, and then some soldiers went and told their commanders, Christ has risen. And these commanders say, oh, Christ has risen. So what we will do, tell other people that the disciples came and stole his body. And I think John says that this story is being told even to date. So even in John's time, people were still saying Christ never resurrected, people stole his body and all that. But when you see a disciple dying for his faith, that is something worth thinking about. Because why would you believe in something to the extent that you want to give up your life for it? Yeah. I mean, you can talk about brainwash and all that. Yeah. But the fact that people were able to stand against persecution, and we take persecution so lightly, but the fact that they were able to stand against persecution made other people come up and accommodate these beliefs. We talk about their blood being as seeds that sprouted the beliefs more and more. So, I mean, that for me is just the power of this text. Now, the Bible doesn't just instruct us on what to do and what not to do. I mean, it does that, but that's also the whole point. Because as human beings, we have kind of lost direction. Everyone is, and I think something I want to mention, I appreciate that all of us have beliefs. Everyone is a believer of something. Even the atheists believe, they have faith. It takes faith to believe that there was a big bang, because you're not there, you have to believe that. So everyone is a believer. And sometimes when I speak to some of my friends who are atheists and agnostics, they're offended when I tell them that they believe. There's this professor from Oxford, he's called the mathematician. What is his name?
Lennox.
Yeah. Is it Lennox? So Lennox, and advise our viewers to also go and listen to what these guys are saying. But when Lennox is talking with Richard Dawkins, he's telling him that you also are a believer, and Misati is a believer. He believes in something, and so at least at the very core of it, we appreciate that we are believers, and we are looking out. We are seeking knowledge. Now, one thing I want to challenge Misati on, and I hope he answers. When you talk about African spirituality, how does it accommodate everyone else, humanity as a whole? Because African spirituality, we have our own ancestors, but everyone else does have their own ancestor. Yeah. So how do we accommodate, those the Native American spirituality, people in Asia and all that? At least for us, for me, I believe that this Bible and this text accommodates everyone. It's written for everyone. It's not just for the Israelites and all that. So even me, as Bichana, an African, a Kenyan, I believe that this Bible accommodates me and everyone else. And then the other thing, you spoke about, in another episode, you spoke about the African spirituality, and that's originating from an, for lack of a better term, an ancestor or a source or an origin, which the people who believe in the African spirituality also cannot be able to explain. So, what is the extent of your faith? Because it takes faith to believe, that we are coming from a source which we don't know, and we have to give, and our lives need to be led by these people we've never even interacted with.
Yeah.
Just to add,
Can I
Before-
add? Okay.
Before you answer,
Sure,
there's
sure.
Bobby, and then you so then you take that.
Okay, let me ask a question. Let's say you're in this room,
Yeah.
and then you're alone,
Mhm.
and then genuinely, let's say Christ appears to you,
Mhm.
and you see him and you talk to him,
Mhm.
and then you leave the room and you try convincing other people that you spoke to Christ,
Mhm.
and there's no one who's actually seen you speak to Christ.
Mhm.
But you've actually seen him, you've spoken to him, you've probably even touched him. What evidence will there be, like, to prove your case? Like, what empirical, like, what substance do you need? Because would you give to people to show that, you know what, I indeed saw Christ, I talked to him, I touched him. Like, how do you measure that?
I
So
think-
the trick question, by the way.
Yes, actually,
Yeah,
yeah. So I think it's
Number two.
yeah. Uh-huh.
Let's say right now, Christians are being killed in Nigeria.
Yeah.
You know, because of someone says, my faith tells me it's okay to kill people who disagree with me.
Mhm.
You know, if there's no like standard of morality that everyone should like follow, like what prevents someone else from doing you harm? And they're like, this is what my faith teaches me. You see, Christianity tells you if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Christ taught eternal truths. You know, even there are some very hard decisions we'll have to make, not because you want them or it's the easy case. Let me use an example you used. These are it's a very sensitive topic.
Yeah.
But yes, Christ taught eternal truths, but there's a story a guy gave as his testimony. He's a preacher, and he says that things didn't go so well for him when he was young, you know, and they went through like a painful experience. Okay, let me just put it this way. He's a product of, the mom was raped, and there's the option of go away the child or keep the child. You know, the mom decided to keep the child, you know, and right now, I'm not advocating for those things. It was bad. But then he's like, right now, he's leading thousands of people to Christ. You see, for him, if God had said, okay, kill, you know, then it would have been, how do you put it?
Just say the word. Don't be
Like,
ashamed. Don't be ashamed of
like,
words. They're
okay, I was
just
also
words.
very surprised. That's
Yeah.
a very difficult decision I believe these people had to make.
Yeah.
But then it resulted in something that was good. You know, Christ, when he said, if someone does wrong to you, do not revenge. You know, he taught things which are gonna exist for eternity. Let me use an example. Muhammad, he lived by the sword.
Yeah.
You know, he spread Islam by the sword. But then Christ was like, that's not how I work. For me, I work by love. Love your enemies. Even Paul himself was like you see, there's a human understanding of things and there's a divine understanding of things. Even though we may struggle to obey God, then I still can say that what God says in the Bible is false just because I don't have maybe the capacity to receive it at the moment, but I just need to acknowledge that it's a true statement, it's a fact. I may not understand it, but it's something that when you look at it in the long run, it makes sense. Like, I believe the Bible is looking at a long-term plan for people and not just
The short term.
the short term.
Okay. So I can answer each of the questions. So, okay, my perspective on Christianity, the way I see the way the Bible relates and all of that, I see that it's a lot of manipulation. So that's how I'm perceiving it. When someone says that if you love them, you must do something, that comes across as being very manipulative. Honestly, when I was really thinking about it, and I thought about it, and I was like, if I behaved the way, like if I use the same tactics that I often see used in Christianity, I think I would. If I had a girlfriend, I think she'd like kick me out the very first day, very very first day, because I can't come to someone and
You are
say,
noting that he's open. You know,
Yeah,
Single, single,
you're
guys.
single, yeah.
So if I come to someone and say that you've really messed up and I can save you, only I can save you, then that really Okay, that's abusive, I have to say. And when someone says that,
What if
no, but the thing is, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, but how do you prove it's true? So it comes to that question of empirical. If I saw Jesus or claimed to see Jesus, I wouldn't try and convince people. I wouldn't try. Why am I convincing you? If I saw my ancestors, if I had a vision of the divine mystery, I wouldn't try and convince you. I'd say that's my truth, and I'd be happy that I have received integration with the divine
What if
mystery.
he told you to go and tell others that
Oh.
you've actually, like Paul, like he saw Christ, he would have chosen to just become a Christian, but God told him, you're going to be a vessel, go and tell the world. Like if he came to you and he told you, what proof would you give to other people that you actually saw?
And I wouldn't actually prove it. I'd be like, I would, to some degree, be convinced I was hallucinating. Yeah, that's the thing. That's pretty much what I would say. That this was a creation of my mind. In that way, it was it was a creation of my mind, and I'm fine with that. And I believe that the creations of my mind, my spiritual experiences are my spiritual experiences. Each of us must come to the truth in our own way.
Yeah.
There are many ways to the truth, and it is up to us to find the way to the divine. Yeah. And what other question was there? There was
The thing is, subjective morality.
subjective morality. So I look at morality. So morality is situationally imagined, but it is grounded on having proper relationships. That's the thing. So any action that does not result in a broken relationship, like that's the thing. So it is a preservation of relationships that are robust. That's the thing. Disagreeing with someone is fine and whatnot, but the thing is, okay, killing is absurd. Killing is really, really absurd. And so I would say in that case, it has to be reviewed. Are we breaking relationships? Now, the thing is, fundamentally, what I would go back and see, I would say that the issue of the subject of saying morality is subjective is a product of oppressive religious structures. That's the thing. And
But the law doesn't stem from religion.
so, okay, it claims not to stem from religion.
It doesn't.
Okay, so the thing is, yeah, but anyway, so looking at it, particularly in this fashion, okay, so even coming to, I think you asked your second question, what did you ask it about?
I think I asked about how does the African spirituality connect
Yeah.
with everyone else?
With everyone
How does
else.
it accommodate everyone else? And on that point, you're talking about broken relationships.
Yeah.
So what is the connecting factor? What is inducing me to have a relationship with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's sometimes human beings we are so fragmented. Sometimes we might tend to say we are very incompatible because imagine there's a community where people are cannibalists. They are not cannibalists. How do you have a relationship with them? Let's say they, perchance, maybe through slave trade or whatever, magic happens, a miracle, we get ourselves in one geographical setting and we are now almost like a community. How do we mend that relationship?
Yeah.
So that you're a cannibalist, I'm a cannibalist. Because when you talk about morality, everyone might have their own understanding. Even murder. Not everyone believes that murder is okay. Because in some communities, they're like, I'll murder you for the good of the greater society.
Yeah.
Some people say murder is wrong in whichever circumstance. So all these things, they're not just, I don't want to talk about subjectivity and objectivity, but let's focus on those relationships. What is the motivating factor that leads us to have that kind of good relationship, and how do we make amends, with
So
that?
the thing is, how does African spirituality envelope everyone else, accommodate them? It doesn't. It's just that simple. African spirituality is spirituality for Africans. So the thing is, then is spirituality where we all have our own ancestors, but the belief is we all originate somewhere. So the thing is, one thing I would look at it very simply is I'll take it that none of us have any idea where we came from. We have absolutely no idea. And so if I take this theoretical case that everyone is right, everyone knows where they came from.
Genuinely, you all do.
No, so I think it's like we believe. Okay, let's just look at it like this.
It's not like from Adam and Eve. I don't mean.
Yeah, so not that way. So let's just say we all. So there are many stories or from whence we came. Now, if all those stories, let me take that case where everyone is right, and I like taking that case, that we are all right.
Yeah.
Then that means that in the beginning of time, there was Adam and Eve, there was the Kemetites, there was the guys in the Congo, there was all these different people, meaning the ancient Egyptians. Yeah. So I'm looking at all these cases, and I'm like, so some people believe that X God made me, another one believes that Y God made me. So therefore, if everyone's right,
Bang Theory.
so
Big Bang Theory.
no, Big Bang Theory. So someone says that there was a Big Bang. So I mean, I'll take it that everyone's right. And some people came from a Big Bang, other people came from X God, other came from Y, Z, etc. God. So therefore, in this center, everyone's right. There are many gods. There's a Big Bang. And that's fine. So when you say what you believe, you're saying where you came from. That's the thing. And because you're saying where you came from, your belief is shaped by where you came from. And that's fine. And that's how we can have a tapestry of belief.
I don't think, okay, you believe in like absolute truths because you can't say everyone is right. For example, we are 4 people. Yes, we were 4 people here.
We are
and
4
then
men here.
we are 4 men here. And then someone says,
No.
there are 4 ladies here. And that guy is so convinced that he's right. You know, he says that there are 4 ladies. And when you ask him, he's like, there are 4 ladies in that panel. So like, how do you say that that person is right? Like, is it just
So are they all truthful?
Are they all correct?
No, I mean, I'd say, yeah,
Life
the person
exists.
is, no, the person, if someone genuinely, honestly, completely believes that, they're saying the truth. It's not your truth. But the thing is, if someone, no, the question, but the thing is, yeah, so
Can you
truth,
drive? Let me ask you a question. Can you drive on the wrong side of the road and say, this is my truth? In Britain, people drive on the
No,
you can even drive on the left.
Right, left.
So you say, me, I'm driving on the right, and this is my truth. And then when you go to court, you say, I'm right. Can that
I
happen?
genuinely believe
I
that I
genuinely
should
believe
drive on the right
that
side.
I'm right. Or someone jumps off a cliff and says, me najua me, gravity don't work on me. You know, I genuinely believe that with all my heart. I'm going to climb on top of Times Tower. I'm going to jump. Like, will that person be believing in the truth or it's a deception? Because if what you believe becomes the truth, then like the people people are going to be doing crazy things thinking they're doing the truth, but they're just doing the wrong thing.
so I'd look at it. So I think we have to separate truth based on verifiable facts and unverifiable facts. I'll separate it like that. So gravity is a verifiable fact. Someone can do an experiment and prove gravity, but I can't prove someone had a vision. I can't prove someone received message from the divine. That's an unverifiable fact. That's a faith-based fact. Meaning, it's either I believe you. Okay, it's like this. If my neighbor comes to me and says that they have a dog, I'll be like, dogs, I know dogs exist. And I know my neighbor can't have a dog. So my neighbor has a dog. And I'm like, okay, I believe you. That makes sense. But if someone comes and tells me that there's a deity in the sky who wants me to follow a list of rules, and if I don't follow them, I'm going to a place where I am consumed by their wrath. I ask the question, I'm skeptical. That doesn't make sense. So that's an unverifiable fact. That's the thing. So when I look at these scientifically verifiable facts, those ones you don't argue on them. Okay. Like it's like that. And then there are conventions. So the convention is that in Kenya, it's the truth to drive on the let's use that truth one. It's the truth to drive on the left. In America, it's the truth to drive on the right. Meaning these are human conventions. These are human inventions, human creations, like that. And human creations are bound to these things. Now, so when I'm classing this, I'm classing the Bible, as I mentioned earlier, as a human creation. It offers a framework. Multiple texts, they all offer frameworks, all ways to understand. Now, so I'm coming to, when it comes to an unverifiable fact, I'll say it like that. A personal experience, I cannot argue with anyone's personal experience. Okay. If it's not something I can prove, I'll say I absolutely respect your experience. If it's not something I can prove, someone tells me they jumped off a building believing that gravity won't work, I'll be like, that's not wise. Because you can prove gravity works. So that's not wise, but you can't prove spiritual experience.
Okay, circling back to the discussion, there's some things I think, in the next 5, I think there's some things we can prove, even from history.
Mm-hmm.
historians or like books such as Clement of Rome,
Mhm.
Tacitus, Annals talks about the death of Peter, right?
Mhm.
And these are historians
Mhm.
who saw a man being killed because of his faith,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Would you say such a person like didn't know what he was doing because he died for Christ?
For me, I look at such a person and I would ask. So the guy is dead, so I can't ask him. But one thing I do know is you can believe a lie, and that lie can cause you to give your life for the lie.
Okay.
That's the thing. And as a result, someone dying for what they believe is not evidence that what they believe is true. If something changes someone's life, it doesn't mean that thing is true. It just means it's life changing. If something, actually, that's pretty much it.
So we
That's
can
pretty much it.
what
Yeah.
we can agree on is what Christ taught was life changing to many people, no?
Yeah, so it changed people's lives. Yeah, that's the thing. It changed people's lives. And yeah,
Yeah, it did change, and many of those who talked or lived with Christ, I would say many, not all,
Mhm.
had a different testimony of what faith really is.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like this is from history, not even from the Bible, purely from. I've given like an example from history. People who say that this guy died because of Christ. You can go and read.
Mhm.
I think this is Clement 1. Yeah, 1 Clement. I think it's AD 95 that talks about the death of Peter because of what he believed in.
Yeah.
And I think in as much as people believe that religion takes a voice out of you, I don't think it does. I think it gives you reason. I think it even gives you a voice to talk because you have talked about what you believe in, right? So I think to the viewers, we can all look into that. We can see, like, not necessarily what works for you, what Bobby said. What is the end goal of this? Not the short term. I can have more opinions in the short term, but the end goal, I might lose my life in the end goal without believing in Christ. And that will ultimately have a consequence that is everlasting. Maybe you don't believe in that.
Yeah.
Pascal's principle.
Also on Pascal's principle.
You can.
Yeah, so Pascal's principle reasons that if there is an infinite, if there is a hell, like an infinite, if there is eternal punishment,
Yeah.
it is better to believe than to be in eternal punishment. Yeah, but I find that logic flawed.
Okay.
I find it flawed in the sense that if you believe there is no eternal punishment, then there is no reason to believe. I look at it like that. Now, some believe there is an eternal punishment. Some believe that Jesus is coming. Some believe, some don't. I mean, some believe he's coming soon. Others believe he's coming in a few 100,000 years. Or some homies is coming in some time. That's the thing. And others are like, we are here to have a good time. We are here to be on a ride. So if you believe there is an eternal punishment, then believing is the best choice. If you believe there is no eternal punishment, and to you in your mind that a God or a deity that would create eternal punishment for those who disagree is incongruent with your belief system, then disbelief is the truth, is the way. Yeah.
So as we finish, I'll give everyone parting shots, and I'll start with you. Please take 1 minute, and Bobby 1, you 1, and I'll conclude. Yeah, that's okay.
I think we'll continue to talk about this one more in many other episodes, but I'll say in the meantime you can go look up. There's a playlist on YouTube called "Come Search with Me" by Suboth Pandit, and it just gives an objective look on all these things that we're discussing.
Yeah.
Let me read one verse here. Now, the difference between what I believe in and what Misati believes in. Misati is not sure about the origins, because
I am sure.
He's sure.
I am sure. I'm sure. I know where I came from.
Yeah.
I don't know where you came from.
But anyway, Misati is not so sure about
where we came from.
about
Where we came
Say what-
Where we came from.
Saying
But
that-
let me-
Yeah,
But are you sure about the God you believe in?
Which God?
he doesn't believe in God.
Which God? I believe that there is an origin point, and I believe that from the early history of God,
Yeah.
I believe that men have made God in their image.
Okay.
That is it. So when you ask, do I believe in God?
Yeah.
My question
You'll ask
is,
which God?
which God? There are many gods
So what do you believe in?
in a great ancestor, an origin point.
Yes, and who is that?
The place from which, like, my ancestral line came from.
And who is that? The origin. But anyway,
The origin-
when you
the origin is the
when you
origin.
read, my point is this: when you read the scriptures in Deuteronomy and 1 Corinthians chapter 9, chapter 8, it says that there are people who sacrifice to gods which they did not know, and there are people who believe God which they did not know. And I think that is true with most religions. But what we are sure of is that whatever I believe in, that is the truth. That is the end of it. There is no room for speculation in Christianity. We have a definite answer that there is a God, the creator of heaven and earth.
Robbie?
For me, I also stand with Jefferson. The Bible says that the verse that we read, the earth is the Lord's and all the fullness, and the world and those who dwell therein. And I believe there's one God, and He's the one who created all of us. And He gave us this sure word of prophecy, to lead us to eternal life, which I believe is there. And I believe the Bible is, this word is the truth. If you just take time and study it,
And Sati?
Right. Fundamentally, like when we believe many things, the tapestry of belief is beautiful. And I believe that is how it should always be. Each of us should come with a way, our interpretation, and in our blending, in our embracing of different ways of seeing, I find that humanity can create a very beautiful fabric.
Okay. I love saying amen.
Nice.
Say amen. So mine would be from Romans 10:17. It's a beautiful verse. The Bible says, "So then faith comes by
Hearing.
and
hearing.
hearing
by the
comes
word of
by
God."
the word of God." Yes, guys, may the Lord bless you, may the Lord keep you, and may you have a lovely week ahead.
Bye.
Bye.